Bright lights caught the twinkle of the tinsel while you wrapped it around the large tree. Strings of silver and green decorated the halls of the apartment, and the baubles that dangled danced while you bumped the leaves every now and then. Christmas time was here, and the plan had always been making the apartment lively after Midoriya had organized a Christmas get-together with his circle of friends. Throughout the month, it was a small trickle of collecting all the decorations needed to brighten the place in between your work and his. You recalled all the boxes and bags piling on the halls before they began to dwindle in capacity with every piece they held.
"How is it going?"
called out Midoriya from the kitchen, the smell of his cookies wafting through the air.
"I'm almost done,"
you answered, admiring the tree.
"But I'll need you for the most important part."
You began shifting some of the boxes out from the lounge, keeping them out of sight while you eyed the tree, smiling at the decorations that littered on its leaves. The way everything twinkled felt so magical, as if you and Midoriya had been collecting them all together for this very day.
"How about you, Izuku?"
you asked, turning towards the kitchen.
"Cookies are almost done,"
he answered, while he started on cutting through some vegetables on the counter.
"But I'll need your help putting together the dinner."
"Coming through,"
you announced when you entered the kitchen, the smell of sugar and cookie dough filling your senses. Midoriya had been nowhere but the kitchen all day since the morning, prepping for a feast for his friends this Christmas Eve. He had already tackled creating eggnog to chill and was almost done with the baking side of things. Now, with a few hours until everyone was to arrive, he started his task in making the large banquet for mouths to feed. You watched him in his colored All Might apron, feeling a smile brighten on your cheeks when he smiled at you. Even though he was number one, he still idolized the man everyone did, including yourself.
"Think you can handle this task while I baste the roast?"
he queried with a raised brow, hearing the slight sarcasm in his voice.
"You meanie,"
you spoke before you carefully took the knife from him and continued to chop the vegetables he started. A chuckle quietly escaped from Midoriya before leaving you with the task, going through each slice with precision.
"But after this, you're going to have to help me too."
"I hear you,"
agreed Midoriya before he began to prep the roast.
"I can't wait to see everyone."
"Yeah, me too,"
you exclaimed.
"I still can't believe Bakugo agreed to come. You know, he's growing on me a little."
"Yeah, that's Kachan for you,"
stated Midoriya with a soft smile.
"He can be surprising in some ways."
"This is going to be our first Christmas in this place together,"
you commented, while you were close to finishing your task at hand.
"I hope we can take a lot of photos. You know, memories."
"Yeah, that too."
Midoriya smiled while he watched you cutting away, your back to him. He couldn't help but feel nothing but the warm flush in his cheeks. His mind, though still on point with what needed doing, was elsewhere. He hoped tonight would go well in his new home with you. He hoped his friends would help make it warm and inviting. He hoped that you would enjoy yourself.
"Done,"
you proclaimed, turning to face Midoriya.
"What now?"
"Oh, bring them all here,"
he instructed, watching you take the cutting board before he gently helped you place the newly chopped vegetables into the large ceramic tray that laid the already basted roast. With everything prepped, he opened the stove oven, pulling out 2 trays of his cookies and placing the prepped roast tray inside. You eyed all of the cookies, chuckling at how adorable he had decorated the pastries. Aside from the generic butter cookies, Midoriya had made gingerbread men, each one styled as each of his friends. You teased him earlier in the month if he would make those cupcakes instead, but with time pressed, cookies were an easier option.
Okay, we gotta let these cool a bit,
he informed while he pulled his oven mitts off.
Great! Now I need your help,
you urged while you gently pulled him into the lounge. He followed you in, still with his apron on, before you both stopped before the Christmas tree. You immediately dug into a bag, pulling out a large star and handing it over to Midoriya with a beaming smile.
Please do us the honor of placing the star on the tree,
you asked. Midoriya stared at the way you stood and held the star before you, feeling his cheeks warm at the sight. With a smile, he took the star from your hands, heading towards the tree and easily placing it atop.
There, all done,
he murmured before he felt your arm hug his side, admiring the now complete tree. Midoriya turned to you with a warm smile, watching your eyes brighten at the sight of all the glitter and cheer.
Alright, I'll be getting ready if that's okay,
you piped, catching his attention.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I can take care of the rest,
he reassured. Midoriya watched you make your way through the apartment towards the bedroom, hearing the shuffling from your movements while he undid his apron. He began going through the master list in his head, ensuring what needed doing before he can freshen up for the dinner tonight. Seeing the rest of the lounge covered in tinsel, garlands and stockings made him feel that Christmas cheer, but a nervousness bubbled in the pit of his stomach. With friends coming over and sharing the festivities, he hoped there would be one moment for the both of you alone.
Hi, Midoriya!
Greeted Uraraka by the front door, standing next to Ida.
Hey guys, you're just in time,
remarked Midoriya.
We got the roast ready to go.
He looked around after inviting both of his friends in before he turned to Ida, a little confused. Not to worry, Midoriya, reassured Ida. Just me tonight, but I wouldn't mind a doggy bag if anything is left over. Midoriya smiled, patting Ida on the square of his shoulders.
Of course, can do. They're busy again?
As always, they prefer machines over people.
Well, I hope you enjoy yourself.
Midoriya turned to find Uraraka chatting up a storm with you, dressed festively with a very large oversized jumper. He couldn't help but smile at the energy you radiated in the hallway before a large hand landed on his shoulders, turning to Ida. You're going to be fine, he continued to reassure. Uraraka and I are on top of it.
Thanks.
Both men shared a knowing look before Ida left Midoriya to greet you, seeing the smile on your face light up at the sight of him. Midoriya continued to watch, knowing how you meshed with his circle of friends. After being a part of his life, meeting his family and his friends, you had been nothing but supportive of him. He hoped that you felt the same way. The next hour involved more guests arriving at Midoriya's home, including Bakugo, who, in his own way, greeted with a gruff and a scoff. His significant other, his fiancée, didn't apologize for it. It was communicated that Bakugo was the way he was, and it turned out to be an endearing act of character. Conversation focused between catching up with everyone, on their lives, on their work, on anything interesting to note.
Wait! You're joking, right?
Exclaimed Kaminari through his laughter.
Please tell me you are. Do I look like I'm laughing?
Growled Bakugo. Can't believe you of all people had the worst timing, commented Kirishima. Them falling off the boat. Sounds like a rom-com waiting to happen.
Hey, at least they said yes,
Piped Sero before a scoff escaped Bakugo's lips. Midoriya couldn't help but eavesdrop into that part of the conversation while he prepared the dinner table. It had only been passed around to close friends at first, but news of Bakugo's engagement was all the gossip after a leak in the tabloids had started it. Funnily, it happened after the UA reunion. Whoever had tipped it remained anonymous, but it made for great media fodder leading up to Christmas. Not that Bakugo was pleased about it. Midoriya smiled inwardly towards the fiery blonde, happy that he had found someone who matched him, and even more so, who challenged him. The sound of laughter caught his ear before he turned towards you, entertaining other guests and friends, your smile beaming from your face filled with joy. It had been a short while since the both of you agreed to move in together, less than a year, no less. Many firsts had been made in this new home, and while he held onto his pocket, ensuring he had everything he needed, Midoriya calmed his nerves. Midoriya? He jumped a little from the sudden jolt, finding Todoroki behind him with eggnog in hand. The jewel-haired man peered at Midoriya, puzzled by his sudden shock before he righted himself back, clearing his throat.
Man, you gotta stop sneaking up on people like that,
commented Midoriya with a nervous grin, attempting to calm his nerves again. But I didn't, remarked Todoroki. I just called your name. Midoriya sighed before placing the roast in the center of the not-so-large dining table. He could feel his heartbeat in his ribcage from both the minor's scare, but also from his nervousness that brewed inside. It came in waves, ebbed and flowed from his mind. You'll do fine, Midoriya, spoke Todoroki before he eyed the crowd of people within the small space of the apartment. I'm sure it'll go smoothly.
Ida said something similar earlier,
commented Midoriya while he rubbed the back of his neck.
This is just
too important. Midoriya shook his head slowly, his eyes back on you hosting part of the event, watching how lovely you were this Christmas Eve. A hand gripped onto his shoulders firmly, finding Todoroki with a smile, an expression never seen often on the man. When you put your mind to something, Midoriya, you always succeed. We've all seen it back at UA, and I doubt this momentous occasion would deter you, reassured Todoroki, causing Midoriya to turn to him with worry and yet also with surprise. That smile of Todoroki's still remained, leaving Midoriya to do the rest of his preparations for the night. He watched as the jewel-haired man joined his significant other by the wall, keeping them company. Midoriya had Ida's and Todoroki's words in mind, his hand reaching for his pocket again to reassure him that everything was going according to plan. In his head, at least. After going on a trip with Ida, Todoroki, and Uraraka for this occasion, it felt like the most nerve-wracking and most horrifying thing to confront. More terrifying than facing whatever villain was out there. Although Midoriya knew he threw things out of proportion, breathing deeply and returning back to what he was presently doing. He'll eventually get there, he thought, while trying to stay present amongst his friends. After dinner had been served and everyone was fulfilled, each guest received a doggy bag after the big roast dinner. Enjoying Midoriya's little gingerbread friends, each of them fashioned after all of them. The festivities continued with eggnog to go around before the Christmas caroling began. While the noise and cheer grew, you felt Midoriya's hand grasp onto yours, his rough hands catching you off guard before he led you out onto the small balcony from the lounge. With the slide of the large windows, the sound of the city filled your ears, while the muffling of caroling was drowned from the window pane. You breathed a sigh of relief, while Midoriya hugged you from behind, his large arms warming you from the chilly night air.
Thanks,
you breathed.
It's fun, but I'm glad you pulled me out of that conversation.
Yeah, sometimes Ishido can get a little excited,
remarked Midoriya while he laid his head next to yours.
Nah, your friends are great. I'm surprised we fit the entire class in our apartment.
Well, not everyone could make it, but I'm surprised too.
You turned to face Midoriya, still with a smile on yours, before a curious look caught his attention.
Did you know Bakugo was proposing that weekend?
You asked. Midoriya's face faltered a little flustered on the thought.
No, actually, that caught me off guard.
Wow, he didn't even tell you?
Kachan tends to keep to himself a lot. You'd be surprised.
I think he's pulled all of the surprises out of me.
You admitted.
I can't make heads or tails out of him. Now, Todoroki, on the other hand, he's pretty straightforward.
Midoriya wryly smiled at your perceptions of his friend. You had a strange way of looking at them, but it only made you more endearing in his eyes.
Well, how about another surprise for you?
He asked, almost mumbling those words.
Oh? Mr. Number One?
You teasingly reprimanded with a cheeky smile, your eyes glancing at the jovial scene behind you.
In front of everyone else?
No, it's nothing like that. I promise.
Intrigued by his choice of words, you peered at Midoriya's face, his eyes glancing away from yours when they met for a moment. You could sense his anxiousness, and that timid side of him resurfaced again. It only made you feel a bit fidgety and anxious yourself, wondering what was bothering him. Seeing the number one hero turn almost gloomy was becoming disconcerting. Midoriya released you from his hold, turning himself to face you with a nervous, tight lip. His hands clasped together, keeping them warm, but also keeping him from fidgeting on the spot.
I just wanted to say that I'm so happy that we moved in together.
He started with a small smile.
I'm happy we made this decision together.
Of course, we're partners.
You agreed with a smile.
That's right. And even before then, you helped make things work. Ever since we met at the Heroes Association meet, we've been in each other's lives up until this day, and
You watched Midoriya's eyes glance downwards towards his pockets, pulling out a small box in his large, scarred hand. Your breath hitched at the sight, until he opened the box with a click, the ring glistening in the streetlights that surrounded the apartment block. The sounds of drunken caroling drowned from your ears, as if in this moment, only you and Midoriya existed. He stood closer to you with his hand still cupping the box, his eyes now on yours. You couldn't see it, but he felt his face burn with a heat that overthrew the chilly air, while he outstretched his hand.
Now that we've reached this point, will you do me the honor of marrying me?
All sound disappeared, leaving your eyes on the ring that sat in Midoriya's palm. An overwhelming feeling of joy surged through you, unable to contain the smile on your face and the tears that threatened to spill. You peered into Midoriya's eyes, finding that they too smiled but also grew wet with tears at your reaction. Staring at him only inherited another surge of happiness and joy, now with tears spilling from the corner of your eyes before you quickly embraced his form.
Yes!
You exclaimed into his chest.
1,000 times yes!
Midoriya hugged your frame while he laughed through the tears, elated by your approval.
I am honored to have you.
You whispered in his ear, still with your arms around his neck. His warmth enveloped you while you continued to spill tears. Until the light of a camera's flash caught you by surprise. There by the windows, half of Midoriya's friends watched the spectacle unfold, their smiles beaming. You spotted Ida and Uraraka filming the event, finding yourself embarrassed at the sight before you hid your face in Midoriya's chest. You felt his heart race and his laughter bubble until he wrapped his arms around you like a large blanket.
Merry Christmas, cutie.
He cheered, holding you tightly. Despite the cheers and coos of his friends, you smiled into his festive jumper, your eyes wetting the fabric, and comforted by the joyful laughter that ran rhythmically in Midoriya's chest. Thank you for tuning in to another fan fiction reading. If you enjoy what I do or would just prefer to fall asleep to my voice, please like this video and also please subscribe to my channel. I will be providing as much content as possible, so be sure to keep an ear out for any new content along the way. Thank you for visiting. I hope to hear back from you next we meet.